This really is a collaboration. We're talking about a convention center that will be built on the University of North Texas property that will be tied to a convention center hotel. It's actually being constructed and built by a third party. In this particular case, it's O'Reilly Hospitality. This is actually responsible for the construction of the hotel. Now, the city will not own the hotel. We're not contributing any funding toward the hotel. We are specifically talking about a city convention center.
Whoa, pump the brakes. I think you forgot to include the most important member of this party, the citizens of Denton. If you're going to call this a true collaboration, we, the people, deserve to be a part of it and have a voice. Denton Record Chronicle, July 12, 2014, by Mike Cochran. City convention facilities need to be put to a vote. The real pity of all this is that many citizens of Denton have wanted a convention center near the square and A-Train, one that meets our needs, that would serve the community as well as possibly create some spin-off benefits. Many of us would have loved the opportunity to weigh in on this, to offer suggestions, to hear other good ideas, and together with the council, create something by the community and for the community. The closed nature of these discussions alone should cast some real questions on the entire process. The council argues that there has been plenty of public input on this, and if we did not weigh in, it is our fault. 2 council members have argued that since they were for the project and they have been re-elected, then therefore the citizens were for the convention center. The city cited 22 public meetings about the project since 2011, but this is just not the case. It may have been on the agenda in the council work sessions or in a secret executive sessions, but there has only been one public hearing. This is an important distinction in which citizens were allowed 3 minutes each to speak. This meeting was a month ago, long after policy was made in closed sessions, agreements signed, and minds well made up. It was not, in fact, public discussion. It was an obligatory public meeting, the bare minimum required by law. We know this to be true, that our citizens are capable of having good, creative ideas and are practically begging for opportunities to be engaged in the process in a meaningful way. Brainstorming, compromise, and consensus lead to a conclusion in which we can all take pride. Create a good idea, have community buy-in, and voters will approve bonds for civic improvement. What we need is a convention center that will serve Denton and not the other way around. We need a center that actually comes from the community and not one that is being perpetrated upon it. The shame of all this is that if we build the wrong convention center now, we will never build the right one later.
They have tonight. I really wanted the rest of the city council to be here tonight because I wanted them to hear what citizens had to say about this. There was, I guess, just a little mess up with the posting, doing it legally, so we can only have 3, but we think we have the best 3 here. So that's probably a good deal. And I was going to make some joke about, well, if you can't handle a little thing like posting a notice for an open meeting, how can you be expected to negotiate a big contract? But that would be a cheap shot, and I wouldn't wouldn't want to do that at all. And I had just to demonstrate it. In fact, there was an element of truth to their comments about the 22 meetings. In fact, there had been 22 mentions of the convention center in the minutes to the agendas of the city council. But of course, as you can see, I've taken the liberty to differentiate them by color, that 10 of those meetings were in fact executive sessions, and those what you see in red. 10 of them were work sessions in the afternoon in which citizens were not allowed to speak. One of them sort of snuck through on July 9th in a consent agenda item, just a little procedural thing that went through there, and one public hearing on June 17th that I was able to attend, and a few other folks were as well. That website I fumbled the name of earlier was preservedenton.com, isn't that right? Okay. And it has a lot of material, a lot of backups. Some of the city data is on there as well. And you might, pretty easy to remember, I apparently couldn't, but I'm sure the rest of you can. Preservedenton.com, it's got a lot of stuff on here. So anyway, introduce yourself and here we go.
Kathleen Wozni, I live in Denton. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. We get in such a hurry sometimes to make decisions and spend money that we forget those words. I strongly believe this convention center should go to the people for a vote, up or down. At all levels of government, including elected officials, staff, they have the attitude, we know best. That's our attitude. We know best. And citizen involvement is minimalized. I would strongly encourage our elected officials, staff, and the media to listen to the citizen involvement tonight. And while some city council members will boast that all council members support this project, I take issue with that statement. While council voted 7-0 for the TERS, I'm certain that some of those votes were cast to buy time, to gather additional information on the project, including construction bids, the buy-in, confirmation from the county commissioners and Denton ISD. I would caution City Council, never assume the public is smarter than that. Also, never assume that because you were elected in May, that this past election was a single issue election. I can guarantee you it was not. The convention center was only one of many issues in this last election. And while we're at it, let's set the record straight on the number of public meetings on this convention center. Here are the facts. We've only had one public hearing where the public could speak, and even then we only had 3 minutes. We could not ask questions. Your public meetings have never offered the public a true chance to weigh in, to ask questions, to speak. Well, we are weighing in tonight. I support also an event center in Denton, closer to our downtown businesses who have already invested in our town. After all, a TERS is meant for the rehabilitation of a blighted part of a city. What's blighted about this piece of UNT property? Nothing. This shouldn't be built on UNT property. It's owned by the state of Texas, not the city of Denton.
You know, I know that you say that there's been public input, but the fact of the matter is, really, there hasn't been. There's been many, many meetings that have been behind closed doors, and many of the work sessions have been closed for part of them. And as you know, when you go to a work session, you don't get to speak like you do even the 3 minutes that is currently used for a public hearing. We had one public hearing, and it's before they even had the bids in. Now, we need to have another public hearing when we get all the stuff in, when the feasibility study is over. You already spent money on the feasibility study. Now, let's get the information after we have that. But I'm opposed to this. I am very much opposed to this. I'm a little bit older. And it isn't that I'm a troublemaker. I have been very involved in the city. But, you know, you're a little bit younger than I am. And I'm on my 13th home in quite a few states, Texas more than any place. And I really care about what's going to happen with Denton. If we're going to have a convention center and a motel, let's have it downtown.
And as I have said before, I really think that the public wants to be involved in the decision making, and if the council members and the staff would simply accept that. And I know meetings are long, but if you decide to run for city council, then expect to have some extra meetings. You can meet in neighborhoods. I know you talked about meeting with stakeholders, but all of us who vote are stakeholders. And so you just need to decide that when you endeavor on a project like this, you're going to let the people in from the very beginning so that they know step by step. And then they will support you. We don't come down to this point then where people are saying, let us vote on it. And some of those people will have no clue as to how to vote because they haven't been involved. So please, please, please think in terms of involving more people than just the city council. That's just not enough.
San Marcos at the time was the one of the, I guess, the top 4 tourist destinations in the state. They have a convention center down there, and but I'll parenthetically say, originally they tried to locate it at the wrong place. The citizens arose. They had a petition drive, forced a referendum, and they had already voted to go ahead with it. Being this council, they stopped it. The council then backed up, found a more appropriate spot for the convention center, built it, and it's doing okay. And I talked to some of the activists that had been opposed to it before. They said, yeah, no problem. We don't have a problem with it now. It's great. Community buy-in is what they got because they listened to the citizens and they responded to them. And that, again, is something I don't believe has happened here. Anyway, thank you all for coming. If there's anything that you're angry about at all, please contact our mayor. And there we go.